The Blind Man. Isabel Purvin was listening for two sounds, for the sound of wheels on the drive outside, and for the noise of her husband's footsteps in the hall. Her dearest and oldest friend, a man who seemed almost indispensable to her living, would drive up in the rainy dusk of the closing November day. The trap had gone to fetch him from the station, and her husband, who had been blinded in Flanders, and who had a disfiguring mark on his brow, would be coming in from the outhouses. He had been home for a year now. He was totally blind, yet they had been very happy. The Grange was Morris's own place. The back was a farmstead, and the Wernhams, who occupied the rear premises, acted as farmers. Isabel lived with her husband in the handsome rooms in front. She and he had been almost entirely alone together since he was wounded. They talked and sang and read together in a wonderful and unspeakable intimacy. Then she reviewed books for a Scottish newspaper, carrying on her old interest, and he occupied himself a good deal with the farm. Sightless, he could still discuss everything with Wernham, and he could also do a good deal of work about the place, menial work, it is true, but it gave him satisfaction. He milked the cows, carried in the pails, turned the separator, attended to the pigs and horses. Life was still very full and strangely serene for the blind man, peaceful with the almost incomprehensible peace of immediate contact in darkness. With his wife he had a whole world, rich and real and invisible. They were newly and remotely happy. He did not even regret the loss of his sight in these times of dark, palpable joy. A certain exultance swelled his soul. But as time wore on, sometimes the rich glamour would leave them. Sometimes, after months of this intensity, a sense of burden overcame Isabel, a weariness, a terrible ennui in that silent house approached between a colonnade of tall shafted pines. Then she felt she would go mad, for she could not bear it. And sometimes he had devastating fits of depression which seemed to lay waste his whole being. It was worse than depression, the black misery, when his own life was a torture to him, and when his presence was unbearable to his wife. The dread went down to the roots of her soul as these black days recurred. In a kind of panic she tried to wrap herself up still further in her husband. She forced the old spontaneous cheerfulness and joy to continue, but the effort it cost her was almost too much. She knew she could not keep it up. She felt she would scream with the strain, and would give anything to escape. She longed to possess her husband utterly. It gave her inordinate joy to have him entirely to herself. And yet, when again he was gone in a black and massive misery, she couldn't bear him. She couldn't bear herself. She wished she could be snatched away off the earth altogether. Anything rather than live at this cost. Dazed, she schemed for a way out. She invited friends. She tried to give him some further connection with the outer world, but it was no good. After all their joy and suffering, after their dark great year of blindness and solitude and unspeakable nearness, other people seemed to them both shallow, prattling, rather impertinent. Shallow prattle seemed presumptuous. He became impatient and irritated. She was wearied. And so they lapsed into their solitude again, for they preferred it. But now, in a few weeks' time, her second baby would be born. The first had died, an infant, when her husband first went out to France. She looked with joy and relief to the coming of the second. It would be her salvation. But she also felt some anxiety. She was 30 years old. Her husband was a year younger. They both wanted the child very much, yet she could not help feeling afraid. She had her husband on her hands, a terrible joy to her and a terrifying burden.